For today's lecture, we are going to introduce the concepts of linearity and superposition in circuit analysis. I am going to approach these topics from a system-level perspective. This method is not often used in circuit analysis textbooks. However, I believe that it more effectively demonstrates how powerful these concepts are when applied to circuit analysis. First, let's consider the black box system shown on the screen. The box represents a system which acts on the inputs located on the left and produces the outputs located on the right. For example, the system acting on input x1 produces the output y1, and the system acting on input x2 produces the output y2. For the system to be linear, it must produce a very specific output which is given by the equation below. This equation may look complicated, but it can be boiled down to two distinct properties which must be satisfied: additivity and homogeneity. Let's first talk about the additivity property. The additivity property states that if several independent inputs are used to excite a system, the total response, or output, due to all of these excitations can be determined by considering each input separately while assuming all other inputs to be zero. But what exactly does this mean? Well, if we have a system and we excite it using an input x1, then we should get a corresponding output y1. Similarly, if we excite this same system with an input x2, we should get a corresponding output y2. If the system obeys the additivity property of linearity, if we apply both inputs x1 and x2 simultaneously, then our system output should be the sum of y1 and y2. Let's work an example problem to see how this concept fits into circuit analysis. We are asked to verify that this circuit obeys the additivity property by proving that we get the same output, Ix, when working the problem in two different ways. The first way that we'll approach this problem is by leaving both inputs or sources on and employing the circuit analysis techniques we know up to this point, Ohm's law, KCL, and KVL, to solve for the quantity Ix. Next, we'll solve the circuit with only one source on at a time and add the values of Ix that we get together. If our answers using both methods agree, then this circuit obeys the additivity property of linearity. Looking at our circuit, we can quickly see that there are no simplifications that can be made with our current level of expertise. What we are going to have to do then is to throw the kitchen sink at this circuit, and by that I mean use Ohm's law, KCL, and KVL, and attempt to develop some relationships that will allow us to solve for the quantity Ix. The first thing I'm going to do is label all of the voltages and currents in the circuit which weren't defined in the problem statement. Starting with the 6 ohm resistor, I'm going to assign a voltage of V6, positive polarity on left, negative polarity on the right, and a corresponding current, I6, which is going to flow into the positive polarity terminal. For my 10 ohm resistor, I already know that Ix flows through it, so I'll just need to assign a voltage. So I'm going to define V10 as positive polarity terminal on top, negative polarity terminal on bottom. For the 9 ohm resistor, I know that 2 amps of current flow through it, so I'm going to assign a voltage V9, positive polarity on the right, negative polarity on the left, and finally, I have one last voltage that I need to account for, which is the voltage drop over the current source. I'm going to call that VCS with positive polarity on top and negative polarity on bottom. I believe that takes care of labeling all of the voltages and currents in this circuit. I'm going to write a Kirchhoff's voltage law equation for the left-hand loop. I'm doing this because it's going to relate a lot of the variables that I have together. So I'm going to start at the bottom left-hand corner and work my way clockwise around this loop. So starting at the bottom left-hand corner, I see the negative polarity terminal of the 6-volt source. So I'm going to have negative 6 volts plus V6 plus V10 is equal to 0. Using Ohm's law, I can then rewrite V6 and V10 in terms of I6 and IX, which is the quantity that I'm looking for. So V6 can be rewritten as 6 ohms times I6, and V10 can be rewritten as 10 ohms times IX, and this will be equal to positive 6 volts. I can also apply Kirchhoff's current law at the top middle node where the 3 resistors are connected together. So I can see that the current I6 and the 2 amps that are supplied by the source are flowing into the node, so that gives me I6 plus 2 amps is equal to the current that's exiting the node, which is IX. I can rearrange this, and I find that I6 minus IX is equal to negative 2 amps. This gives me 2 equations containing the variables I6 and IX. So I can solve these equations simultaneously, and in doing so, I find that I6 is equal to negative 7/8 of an amp, and IX is equal to positive 9/8 of an amp. What we're going to do now is analyze the following 2 circuits to determine each source's contribution to the quantity IX. In the left circuit, we have turned off the current source by replacing it with an open circuit. This is because a 0 amp current source should allow no current to pass, but enable any voltage necessary to appear across its terminals, which is perfectly described by an open circuit. In the right-hand circuit, we have turned off the voltage source by replacing it with a short circuit. This is because a 0-volt voltage source should have no voltage drop over it while allowing any current that needs to flow through it to pass. Looking at the left-hand circuit, we can observe that since the 9 ohm resistor is not part of a closed loop, no current can pass through it, and thus IX prime is simply the loop current flowing clockwise through the voltage source and the 6 and 10 ohm resistors. We can solve for the value of IX prime using Ohm's law. So IX prime will be 6 volts divided by 6 ohms plus 10 ohms, which gives us 6/16, or 3/8 of an amp. Looking at the right-hand circuit, we can see that we have 2 amps of current flowing into the top middle node, which will split between the 6 ohm resistor and the 10 ohm resistor. We can use current division to find out how this current splits between the 6 and 10 ohm resistors. So using current division, IX double prime is 2 amps multiplied by 1/10 ohms divided by 1/6 ohms plus 1/10 ohms, which gives us 3/4 of an amp, or 6/8 amps. Finally, we'll add IX prime and IX double prime together. So this will be 3/8 of an amp plus 6/8 of an amp gives us 9/8 of an amp, which is the exact same answer we got with both sources on at the same time previously. The next property of linearity that we are going to discuss is the homogeneity or scaling property. The homogeneity property states that if an independent input is used to excite a system, scaling that input by an arbitrary factor of alpha causes the output to scale by the same amount. So if we have a system like the one shown on the screen, where an input of x yields an output of y, if we scale our input by a factor of alpha, then our output should scale by the same amount. There's a note at the bottom of your screen that's very important. It says that the scaling factor can be a real, imaginary, or complex number. Really, the only thing it can't be, for our intents and purposes, is a time-varying parameter. Let's work an example problem which will illustrate the homogeneity or scaling property of linearity. This is what our circuit looks like when we've applied the scaling factor of 2 as defined in the problem statement. Our 6-volt source has become a 12-volt source, and our 2-amp source has become a 4-amp source, but all of our resistor values stay exactly the same because the scaling factor only applies to our inputs. So we're going to analyze this circuit much like we did in the first example problem. I'm going to assign voltages and currents that I think I'll need. So with the 6-volt source, we'll have, again, V6, positive polarity on the left, negative polarity on the right, a current I6 that flows through the 6 ohm resistor into the positive polarity terminal. We're going to have a voltage drop V10, positive polarity on top, negative polarity on bottom. We know the current that flows through the 10 ohm resistor is IX. Since 4 amps is flowing through the 9 ohm resistor, I'm going to define V9, positive polarity on the right, negative polarity on the left. And finally, I'm going to have a voltage drop over my current source, VCS, again as well. I'm going to apply Kirchhoff's current law around the left-hand loop, starting at the bottom left-hand corner. So I will have negative 12 volts plus 6 ohms times I6 plus 10 ohms times IX is equal to 0, which I can rearrange and write as 6 ohms times I6 plus 10 ohms times IX is equal to positive 12 volts. If I apply Kirchhoff's current law at the top middle node where all of the resistors join again, I will have the relationship I6 plus 4 amps is equal to IX, which I can rearrange as I6 minus IX is equal to negative 4 amps. And again, I have two equations, each containing the variables I6 and IX. Solving these equations simultaneously, I find that I6 is negative 7/4 of an amp, and IX is positive 9/4 of an amp. The values that we've determined for I6 and IX are exactly the same as the values that we determined in our first example problem, but scaled by a factor of 2. So we can see that this circuit obeys the homogeneity property because when the inputs were scaled by a factor of 2, the outputs were also scaled by a factor of 2. Our final example asks us to verify the linearity of the circuit shown below by determining the value of the quantity Ix with the voltage source scaled by a factor of -3 and the current source scaled by a factor of 5. To verify the linearity of the circuit, we're going to have to verify that the additivity property and the homogeneity property are both satisfied simultaneously. This is what my circuit looks like when applying the scaling factors as given in example 3's problem statement. My voltage source has been scaled by a factor of -3, so it increased in magnitude from 6 volts to 18 volts, and I've also changed the polarities of the voltage source to account for the negative sign. My current source has been scaled from 2 amps to 2 times 5 is equal to 10 amps. Now, before we actually begin our circuit analysis here, I'm going to use the additivity property and the homogeneity property of linearity to make a prediction on how this circuit is going to behave and what my response is going to be. If you recall, when we had an input of 6 volts, this yielded an output of 3/8 of an amp. So the contribution of my 18 volt source is -3 times 6 volts, which means my output should be negative 3 times 3/8 is negative 9/8 amps. Similarly, my 2 amp source had a corresponding output of 6/8 of an amp, and so I am going to predict that my 10 amp source, which is just 5 times 2 amps, will have a corresponding output of 5 times 6/8, or 30/8 of an amp. If I add these two results together, then for this new circuit, I believe that Ix will be 30/8 minus 9/8 is 21/8 of an amp. Now I'm going to analyze the circuit using the method that we've done with both sources on each time. So I'm going to start by labeling all of my unknown voltages and currents. So I again have V6, positive polarity on the left, negative polarity on the right, a current I6 flowing into that positive polarity terminal, a voltage drop V10 over my 10 ohm resistor, a voltage drop V9 over my 9 ohm resistor, and a voltage drop VCS over my current source. Applying Kirchhoff's voltage law at the left-hand loop gives me 6 ohms times I6 plus 10 ohms times Ix is equal to negative 18 volts. Applying Kirchhoff's current law at the middle node gives me I6 minus Ix is equal to negative 10 amps. If I solve these equations simultaneously, I find I6 is equal to negative 59/8 amps, and Ix is equal to positive 21/8 amps, which exactly agrees with a prediction that I made using no circuit analysis whatsoever, only using the additivity and linearity property in my previous work to determine how the circuit is going to behave. This is why I feel that linearity is such a powerful circuit analysis tool. You could actually work any circuit possible using 1 volt voltage sources and 1 amp current sources and determine how everything is going to behave just using the scaling and linearity properties. Finally, we come to the superposition principle as it is stated in most circuit analysis textbooks. The superposition principle says that in any linear resistive network, the voltage across or the current through any resistor or source may be calculated by adding algebraically all the individual voltages or currents caused by the separate independent sources acting alone, with all other independent voltage sources being replaced by short circuits and all other independent current sources being replaced by open circuits. This statement is just the additivity principle of linearity reworded. One thing that this statement does clarify, however, is that we can only use superposition on linear quantities, like voltages and currents, but never power, and also it tells us that we can only turn off independent sources. So if we have any dependent sources in our circuits, they must be left on at all times.